Looking at these two individuals, do you see any common point? At first glance, it seems that the two have little connection. One side is an American speech expert, taken to the other world by the hatred of the left and the woke faction, while on the other side is a Ukrainian immigrant girl harmed by a cold-blooded man of color. However, it turns out they both share one huge common point. That is, both went to God because of the two words freedom in the United States. One fought for freedom of speech, while the other fled from the war in her homeland to come to the greatest democracy in the world, only to be harmed in a horrifying way. So, what is the price of America's freedom? For hundreds of years, America has been seen as a beacon of freedom, a promised land for millions of people from all over the world. However, behind that glamorous facade, one cannot deny the fact that American society is full of cracks, tragedies reflecting the coldness and dryness of human compassion. On August 22, 2025, perhaps it was just like any other normal day for Irina Yakushka, a young Ukrainian girl who immigrated to the US in 2022 because of the war in her homeland. Irina had spent 3 years living in America, and according to her family, she loved the US and the freedom it brought. However, those two cruel words, freedom, had a tragic script prepared for the beautiful girl. On the evening of August 22nd, Irina boarded a subway train to return home. But she didn't know that behind her was a criminal with 14 previous convictions who was still roaming free in society. That was DeCarlos Brown. Just a few minutes after the train departed, proud without saying a word, pulled out a cold object from his pocket and ended the young girl's life. And as you can see in the clip, Irina was so terrified that she could only cry. However, instead of rushing to save the poor girl, all the passengers ran away. In the end, the young girl passed away and never made it to the hospital. Irina's passing is not only the tragedy of an immigrant seeking a new life, but also a reflection of the stark and cold reality of modern American society. This woman did not die because of war, nor because of poverty, but in the middle of a country considered one of the most civilized, with the most advanced modern security systems, where laws and surveillance cameras are everywhere. However, what makes people shudder the most is not the violent act of the perpetrator, but the indifference of many people around. The witnesses did not dare to intervene. In that, one can see a society completely lacking in compassion, where humanity has been replaced by cruel apathy. To understand this coldness, we must look at the very structure of American society. This is a country that values individual freedom to the extreme, where the freedom of one person is often placed above their responsibility to the community. On one hand, this creates dynamic, creative individuals who dare to think and act. But on the other hand, it makes many people selfish and indifferent to the suffering of others, believing that someone else's tragedy has nothing to do with them. In that context, a murder case like Irina's is simply her own story, while those around her quickly shed any responsibility, as long as they themselves remain safe. If you ask me about the double-edged nature of freedom in America, I will point directly to this man. The man you are seeing is a district court judge in Mecklenburg County. He is the very person who repeatedly released Brown again and again, while Brown's list of crimes and the number of victims harmed by him was even longer than a grocery bill in America. Yet you know what? The freedom in America can be so horrifying that the Black community in North Carolina was able to create a whole charity fund to help a first-degree criminal like Brown hire a lawyer, as well as to support what they call the fight against the so-called oppression of white people against people of color. Yes, it's the same old race card again. This time, it was initiated by a local Black pastor named Ray Sidman. In addition, this so-called freedom has led to constant violence in American society, which in turn shapes the numb psychology of its people. When daily news is flooded with reports of crimes, robberies, and assaults, Americans gradually start to view these events as something normal, almost inevitable in life. They no longer feel surprised or saddened as they should. As a result, Irina's death, that of a foreign immigrant woman, was easily swallowed up by this apathy instead of becoming a wake-up call about the loss of humanity. Another aspect that must be mentioned is that American society has deep cultural and community divides. Immigrants, especially newcomers, often live in isolation, lacking any real community connection. Not everyone has family, relatives, or neighbors ready to lend a hand. This means that when they face danger, the chance of someone reaching out to save them is very slim. Irina's case perfectly reflects this cruel paradox. In the midst of a bustling metropolis, she was so alone that no one reached out to protect her, even when the murderous intent of the attacker was blatantly clear. The coldness of human relationships in America is also fueled by the fast, hectic pace of life. In big cities like New York, Los Angeles, or Chicago, it's common to see someone collapse in the street while crowds just walk past, indifferent and unmoved. Time, work, and constant worry for oneself cause people to become closed off, unwilling to get involved in trouble. Irina's death was simply an extreme version of this very phenomenon. When personal safety and interests are placed above the lives of others, compassion inevitably disappears. Even more troubling is that this coldness is legitimized by the media and entertainment culture. American television floods viewers daily with movies, games, and news reports filled with scenes of people freely doing whatever they want to, whomever they want. Over time, viewers gradually internalize this and come to see it as a normal part of life. Thus, when a woman is actually attacked in real life, society's reaction is not one of complete shock, but rather a resigned shake of the head. Just another case. This represents a frightening spiritual decay, where people lose the ability to empathize with real tragedies happening right before their eyes. Irina's death is not just the tragedy of an immigrant seeking a new life. It is a reflection of the raw, cold reality of modern American society. This woman did not perish because of war or starvation, but right in the middle of a country considered one of the most advanced and civilized, with modern security systems and surveillance cameras everywhere. Looking at the case of Charlie Kirk, and more broadly at American society as a whole, we can see a horrifying paradox. Why do those who fight for freedom, the very essence of this nation, meet such tragic ends? How can such things happen in America, a country seen as a beacon of liberty? Here we begin to see the fundamental paradox. Freedom, when left unbalanced, can turn into a trap. Kirk's death is the result of a convergence of both of these factors. First, it's a society with extremely easy access to firearms, combined with a political and cultural environment polarized to the extreme. America allows its citizens to own firearms as part of their right to self-defense, enshrined in the Second Amendment. But in reality, this right has opened the door to countless horrifying crimes that we witness every year. Americans defend their right to bear arms as if defending the very soul of the nation, seeing it as a shield against tyranny. However, this very right has become a double-edged sword. It has disconnected communities and planted a constant, lingering fear in each individual. The price of the freedom to own these toys is the loss of safety within the very home of freedom itself. But the story doesn't stop at firearms. It's also about freedom of speech. Kirk didn't die because he carried a gun. He died because he carried opinions. In America, every citizen has the right to say what they think, whether right or wrong, whether celebrated or despised. This principle has been the foundation of American democracy, where people can debate fiercely without fear of state punishment. Yet at the same time, it allows extreme voices to thrive, turning debates into hatred. When words are no longer just words, but seen as weapons, opponents are ready to respond with real weapons. Charlie Kirk, with his sharp criticisms of the woke movement, became a living target in a society that has lost the ability to tolerate opposing viewpoints. Ironically, the root cause lies in the very fact that there are now too many opposing viewpoints. This is the terrifying price of the tragic farce Americans are living through. But is this tragic farce just an isolated incident, a one-off event that doesn't truly represent America? Unfortunately, the only answer is a weary shake of the head. The United States has a long list of political assassinations. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in a theater after the Civil War because of his progressive anti-slavery policies. President Kennedy fell in Dallas because of his leadership stance during the Cold War. Martin Luther King was sent to meet God while fighting for civil rights, and above all, true equality. And now Charlie Kirk, though neither a president nor a national movement leader, was also killed simply for daring to represent a political trend that displeased his opponents. American history seems to show that their freedom has always developed alongside violence. Moreover, instead of using the right to debate and practice civilized rhetoric, political polarization in America always carries the risk of ending with the death of those who dare to stand before the crowd to defend their ideals. So, what is the price of freedom in America? As we've seen through the tragedies of Charlie Kirk and Irina, it is not merely blood and tears. It is also the loss of communal trust, the collapse of mutual respect and equality, and the deep sense of insecurity creeping into every corner of daily life. Yet this very price reflects the truth that freedom is never free. Americans, or more broadly, humanity, are still struggling to find a way to live in a society that is both free and safe. The tragedy of Kirk is a stark reminder that freedom is a noble ideal, but one that always comes with painful costs that each generation must learn to accept, paid with their own blood, tears, and suffering. Vietnam is a nation of freedom, safety, and happiness. Compared to the United States, it might very well be one of the most livable countries on the planet. What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you found this video helpful. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.